Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. LoRosa is here as well, and we got a special guest in the building.
The legendary.
That's right, Miss Mara Brock Akil. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Nice to be here. How are you?
Blessed, black, and highly favored. How's your energy?
It's great.
Okay.
I'm floating.
How does it feel to have yet another hit TV show?
Mm-hmm.
Another
hit TV show. But this is global.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the first time I have been on a stage this big. Normally my shows are on up and coming networks.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like an ingenue actually. I feel both veteran and both I'm also in awe. You know, it's just this an idea is a global conversation. That is kind of, I'm sitting in that. Mostly my career, I've been thinking about a national conversation. But this is a global one. And I've always known that our stories are global, but for it to be a reality is pretty special.
Wow.
And another hit, right? To be at it.
Cool. I mean,
30 years in the game.
Wow.
30 years in the game.
I love
But
it.
let's talk about it. Of course, for people that are just tuning in, you created shows like Girlfriends, The Game, Being Mary Jane. You've written on The Jamie Foxx Show and so many others. But this one is...
Moesha.
So many.
South Central.
See.
So many.
I see you.
This one's on
Black
Netflix.
Lightning.
Yeah.
yeah.
This one's on Netflix.
Yep.
So how did the Netflix play come together? We're doing Forever.
Well, I had a deal. You know, my career did garner me a really wonderful deal. Out of that deal, I did Stamp from the beginning. I hope you guys all saw that amazing documentary that Roger Ross Williams directed, but about Dr. Ibrahim Kendi's work about the racist lies. I mean, the myths of racism. That was my first offering in my deal, and this was the second. It took a minute, strikes and executive changes and whatnot. It took a minute to get this one out, but it was special from the beginning. I met Judy, Blume, somebody else's
Icon.
Come on,
Icon. Two of my favorite storytellers coming together.
I know.
Unbelievable.
Come on. I mean, and that's God.
Absolutely.
First of all, I didn't even realize that the book was going to be 50 years old by the time we released. It was not even in my thinking of that time.
Yeah, it came out in 75. Yeah.
75.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took us a minute to get it out, but we got it out. And so when Netflix heard that that my take on her story, she was about, they were like, we are about that too. So it was a beautiful synergy. One thing I will say about Netflix, when they're behind something, they are behind it, completely supported, resourced. I think that's what's important to me in this moment of this hit show, is that it was my vision was supported financially, and also the episode 5, we went to the vineyard, taking your crew across the country in the middle of production. That is another level of support, and in a place that the infrastructure is not there. Thank you so much. So it was amazing to feel like, wow, I'm supported, got money to have the vision that I want, and to get the people that I need, the collaborators. It's been amazing. So short answer, it's Judy Blume, it's Mara Brock Akil. Netflix wanted all of that.
When you approach Netflix, do you approach it differently? Because, you know, what a lot of the shows that we spoke about is you have to wait for next week, right? So it's almost like you can't wait. You schedule it, you write it down. Well, Netflix, a lot of times, it's a lot differently because everything is right there smacking. You could binge watch it.
Yeah, at your own leisure, yeah.
Correct.
When, you know, I think that's what I'm thankful for, to know how to make television and be able to stretch the canvas differently given different circumstance. And so my job is to keep you on those 8 episodes. I learned that back in the day when we used to have to do cliffhangers for the season, like, you know, during Girlfriends or even Moesha, we had to get you watching for the end of the season, or if there was a break in the middle of the season. So I learned how to craft that. Shout out to my mentor. I'm always going to shout out my mentor, Ralph Farquhar. I learned how to make TV that way, how to keep you engaged, how to keep that binge going. So I understood that, but it was also sort of just a fun way to play in their sandbox. How do you win with their rules? And so that was, for me as a creative, is wonderful. But there's that athlete spirit in me. Like, I want the ball. All right, I want the ball. Let's go. So that was fun to figure out.
You said Judy Blume was your first permission slip as a storyteller.
Oh my goodness.
So how does your inner child feel knowing that you have done such justice to one of her iconic works?
Well, how does my inner? She feels on cloud nine. She is twirling. She is cartwheel. I used to cartwheel back in the day. I could cartwheel, back bend, all the things. She's doing all of that. I'm very proud of myself. It was interesting because my body of work, or I approach my work, I never saw myself as needing IP. I'm like, I'm full of stories. I'm full of original stories. So, but when the opportunity to reimagine one of her books, there was no thinking. My hand just went up. And I feel like it was a little protective as well. It was like, I want to protect that story. I want to be able to tell that story. But my little girl is like, she cabbage patching.
Does she feel like she made it? Do y'all feel like you made it finally?
She's felt like she's made it a long while ago.
Okay.
I think this is different in that it's a full circle moment. I often say that you become a writer as a reader first. And so I used to get lost in the pages of Judy Blume. And so for me to be just the divinity of it, like the divineness of it, that I would come full circle 50 years later, like those kinds of things, right? It's almost like it was written for me. It was written for me and Judy. Matter of fact, I'm going to get a chance to meet her personally. I'm so excited.
You going down to Key West?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. You live this life once, and I'm gonna live in that dream. So yeah, I'm excited to meet her. We met at the time on Zoom, and talked on the phone and emailed, but just to meet her and say thank you and have her sign my book, that 12-year-old girl is running to Key West.
I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Just to go meet Ms. Blume. Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah, just to, that's why what I really would love is for people to honor more of their story, the craftsmanship, sitting in the chair and writing. That woman sat in the chair and wrote, it's like she never got out of the chair, just writing, and what it would do, just someone sharing a story, just my own testimony, is it ignited something in me. And I think that even the feedback I'm getting from the show, not just this show, but the shows I've had in my career, it has ignited other storytellers. And I want us to do more by that. We have so many stories in us that will die in us if we don't even start crafting them and writing them down. And I appreciate social media and we can do things, video and content. I get that too, and that's a beautiful expression. But to literally craft story from a writing perspective, to have those layers of theme and complexity and understanding that her book is still through this show now is still. It still lives. It's universal. Yeah. It's forever. Ba-dum-bum. See what I did there?
The original book was written in the 70s.
Yeah, 75.
Why did you choose to specifically set this story in 2018?
Well, I had to look at what would make it fresh today, and so maybe I have to look at where the kids are today. And Judy and I talked about, well, they know a lot about sex. Like there's so much, you can just hit Twitter, hit whatever. I mean, there's no Twitter anymore. You get the point. But intimacy, connection, those things, I think we're further away, even though we're more I can't get this word out, technologically advanced. We don't have, though these tools are meant to connect us, we are using them in very disconnecting ways. And I think that to bring the phone into the conversation, it's an opportunity to talk about something unique to this culture. Yeah. I mean, excuse me, culture, but this generation, what it is doing to them personally, emotionally, their emotional self, and then how it's even affecting their physical self, and then affecting their future. And that's what the book was about. How do we explore our emotional self, our physical self, while maintaining a healthy future? And this was my conversation today. Also I also wanted to talk about in the Black family, by changing the white family to Black, it allowed me to also talk about a time that I think is very important for us to document between Trayvon Martin's murder and George Floyd's murder. We as Black people, we as Black families, as mothers and fathers, we were screaming into a vacuum about the fear over our children. And there was no amount of fancy zip codes or education that can save your child, and that was scary. And I needed a place for me as a mother to release all of that fear, and then also then look at how much we are out of love, but we are raising our children from that fear.
That's right.
And
That's right.
how that is hurting our children and their inability to have a natural rite of passage to explore again their emotional self, their emotional maturity, their physical self, their physical maturity, to have sex or not have sex, who to have it with, what's the right conditions, all of those choices that they're supposed to be making right now. To protect a beautiful future. And that's another thing. We need to open up some space because our children also need a future. And it's tough out there. And I couldn't imagine being them today, thinking about when people, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, what's out there? And we adults need to get it together. And so this is a part of my offering.
When the book, back in the 70s, it was controversial because of the things that it explored. Today, it's not controversial because we are so open, like what you talk about. When you were crafting like what the storyline would be and how you would redo it, were there things that you were like, I want to make sure I get to or make sure I get in this storyline? Because you also made it feel closer to home for like Black teens. Like, Now Forever feels like it's our story, but you had to do it a different way.
I think it's controversial. Black male vulnerability. It's just, there's no room for it. I think there's no images for it. And yet when I'm looking in the world and within my own children, their friends, and the community beyond that, a lot of boys, and more specifically Black boys, they're not all that hard. They don't have any room for their complexity. They don't have any room for their feelings. Like, it's always funny to me, especially about the group of boys that I'm around. They're all privileged. They live a great life. Time to take a picture. They were laughing 2 seconds ago. You try and take the picture, and then they get that stoic face. They're like, what you mean mugging for? Like, and you realize how much that's imparted on young Black boys all the time about what is manly. What are those images of what a man is? And I wanted to make room for the real reflection. I'm actually looking at the real thing. It's just what gets on that bigger screen and how important it is. I know we talk about representation matters. That's why it matters. You got to see yourself in order to decide, is that beautiful? Is that how I want to look? Is that right? Is that tight? I can't see it. And I think, I also think boys, and working on this project, it made me look at something I hadn't looked at before. I think boys are getting their heart broken a lot sooner.
I felt so bad for Justin the whole time.
Why?
Because I just felt like some of the things that they were experiencing, like I remember being that age and going through like my first like relationship things, but I don't know, I just felt like a lot of times the characters, they were yearning for this like space of like, I don't know, to just be okay, and then things would be going good, and then something else would happen. It'd be something small. It would be like for Keisha, like the video gets sent to her phone and she's finally in this relationship. You know what I mean? Like things were just like happening. I'm like, dang, kids, like why can't they just be and not have to deal with these things?
It's life.
Yeah, it's life, and it's also technology that we didn't have. We got some freedoms without, that they're not afforded. And so that's what I want to talk about. It's like, are we making any room for them? Like, one of the things that I love when every production meeting, I said we're making an epic and intimate love story within a love letter to Los Angeles, right? And what that meant to me is that we need to see them in scope, in scale, in epic. I need to see them, their bodies in the space, in Los Angeles. What that means is that it's a feeling cinematically that I'm making you feel that they belong here. And when they belong here, they belong to us. And so you will engage with our children differently, psychologically, emotionally. Those things are important in our image. On the details. The details on anyone makes them feel more human to you. So I want to make just room for their humanity so that we think about the measures around technology. We think about what the rules are for these kids. I mean, like, these kids are being told today that you make one false move, you won't get a scholarship. I mean, come on.
It's the truth. It follows them for the rest of their lives.
For the rest of their lives.
Which is sad.
And where is any room? There's no humanity in that.
That's how I felt. Maybe that was the humanity part. I'm like, yo, she's young. She made a mistake.
Yep.
Now it's following her. And it's like he's in love and he just doesn't know how to navigate it. And now he feels like he's not a good person, or not a good person. He doesn't feel like he can win the girl in the beginning of things. And I felt bad for that. Like,
but you know what? Back in the day, boys had to walk across the room to ask you to dance.
And that was tougher.
And that was
tougher.
Have you ever done that?
Of
DJ?
course.
Yeah.
Of
Did
course.
you ever get rejected?
No. I never got rejected.
Definitely.
No.
DJ Shrimp.
Even
No.
before you was like,
Because I'll be honest, I only went when I knew I was going to be received. If I
Gotcha.
knew I was going to get rejected or there was a 50-50 chance, I wasn't going to try.
Oh.
Because remember, it wasn't, back then it was a party and everybody standing on the wall.
Yep.
And you have, like you said, you have to walk across. And if I knew this person wasn't feeling me, didn't wink at me, didn't have a crush on me, didn't write me a
Didn't
letter.
hold a stare.
Yeah.
Didn't hold a
yeah, I wasn't going. But if I
Gotcha.
knew that I got that little stare, that little smile, I was going to go.
so it was just
But
the
see,
Dominican
all of
girls.
those social cues that you have to learn in real time, we're not learning that. There's no space for that. So I'm advocating for, I want the kids to be back outside. Like, it's even sad we shot on Fairfax Avenue, right? It's a ghost town right now. But back in 2018, where it was depicted, that was a place for them to be. But where are kids allowed to be?
But that's why I love the scene. I love the scenes at Martha's Vineyard. I love the scenes at the prom.
Oh, gosh.
Especially at the prom, because I feel like in that moment, Justin was, everybody talks about he's chasing the young lady. To me, it felt like he was chasing his blackness.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it felt
Thank
like
you
to
for
me.
saying that. Yeah. One of the things I was trying to say, trying to keep our children safe. Sometimes we're isolating them. He had a pretty prison, but it was up on a hill, isolated, and he's looking for more. But I can also understand Dawn. She's so scared to put him outside. Also scared, is he going to measure up to where they are? You know what I'm saying? She's probably not saying that, but that's psychologically, it's kind of, it's under there. But fun fact, I was so proud as a producer to put all those Black and brown kids taking over the Santa Monica Pier. I found one of the location, I think the last time someone took over the pier at that scale was Tom Cruise. I was like, okay.
Wow.
But that means something to me. That means something, that how we take up the space, the epicness and the beauty of us. These kids are looking like this all over our country, and we see it on Instagram or TikTok or things like. But to put it on that scale, that level of beauty, Anthony Hemingway directed his butt off in that. The kids were just beautiful. Our costume designers were amazing. Our production design was amazing. Our cinematography was amazing. You know what I'm saying? We had the thing lit up. I was on cloud 9 that day that we shot, and we got out of there safe and sound. That's also important. But it's our kids having space in the world, chasing themselves, figuring out who they are, including of their blackness, including of their, what they like, just who they are. Even making room for, I know I get a lot of comments around, wow, he likes Naruto. Yeah, a lot of Black kids love Naruto. We're a part of the world. So that was fun.
And as much as it's a story about the kids, it's a story about the adults, right? Like the way Judy Blume made people feel seen at 13, it feels to me like you're making us feel seen at 40-something, 50-something. So what do those ages need that nobody's writing about?
I'm going to keep saying this over it. Just more complexity, more of our human side. Like I've said before, I don't really believe in positive images. I think they can be just as damaging as negative images.
What do you mean?
Expound on that.
Yeah, break that down.
Because, okay, so the negative image is a product of a lie. Kind of going back to the documentary, like it's the perpetuating the lies and the myths of us. That's been out there. So a lot of Black people want a positive image because they want to rewrite the wrong of somebody else's view of me. But what that does as an artist, it keeps me behind the 8 ball. I'm chasing up and trying to clean up somebody else's mess. I'm from the Zora Neale Hurston school of thought. I know my people. I see my people. I want to be able to talk about them fully. And in the spectrum of our humanity, there is light and dark. We are not perfect. To be perfect, that's just as hard to be perfect as it is to be bad. Like I want the spectrum of my humanity. I want to be able to make a mistake and have my village patch me up and put me back out there. I deserve that. You deserve that. We deserve that. And so I want the spectrum of who I am. And sometimes I'm not great, and sometimes I am in the same day, in the same hour. And I deserve that sort of exploration of who I am as a human being. And I give that to my characters. I think Dawn, for instance, you know, there's a lot of conversation about her as a mother. But that Black mother has raised a lot of kids to get them, to keep them alive. Does she deserve looking at herself? Yes. Hi, my name is Mara Akil, and I'm a former Dawn. I put my pain on the screen. I think, you know, I wanted to, out of love, I'm trying to overprotect my children. And rightfully so.
Yeah, and you end up, she ended up raising her child out of fear and not love. And that's a question I always ask, because I feel like my father raised me out of fear and not love. Not meaning that he didn't love me.
Yes. Oh, they love. And the kids know that. The kids know that they're loved, but it still feels constrained.
But that dynamic was amazing, though. The way you had Dawn, you know, being the overprotective parent who was raising her son out of fear and not love, but then the father, Wood Harris' character, was, you know, high emotional IQ, you know, very vulnerable, soft with his son in a way that we don't really see on TV, especially between Black men and between Black men, period. I thought that was incredible.
Thank you. I really, first of all, shout out to Wood Harris and Karen Pittman. They killed those roles.
You couldn't have casted it any better.
No.
I mean,
oh my God.
As soon as we met Lovey and Michael and put them together, it was like, come on, chemistry off the jump. Their chemistry was amazing. Karen and Woods, you know, I did want to depict two types of Black families that we recognize, right? But speaking about the Edwards for a moment, it just shows you the need to have two partners in a home. Just the balance of it all.
Absolutely.
I think that Eric could be that because he has such a solid foundation in Dawn. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. You know what I'm saying? I feel like his emotional maturity is because how much he is loved also by her. And so, he can allow for her fear in a moment like this. Keep in mind, he's also aware of her worries about her children wearing a hoodie. So he understands, and boys, and he understands how assertive she is, and he knows all that stuff about her. And that's a lot of my backstory when I'm writing those characters, and how much, and it is irritating in parenting when you have different approaches at a very crucial moment when now the kids can talk back. You know, being when they're younger, it's a little, you know, it's a little easier on the parenting different dynamics sometimes, but. The stakes being high, right? These children are about to be out of the house. Those things get a little bit, you know, we all react a little differently.
Well, talk about the importance of that. I think we miss that a lot. We've seen it a lot more with my parents, but I think in these days, people I don't think, care to really respect a two-parent household. It just seems like it's very loose, and people forget about what it means to kids and how important that is.
Well, it's just another witness to the witnessing in a lot of ways. Like, you know, one of the things in my own parenting, I used to get frustrated about why the kids seemed to act up a little bit more with me than they did with their father. And I was like, and I would complain to Salim all the time. And then later I realized, wow, what a privilege it is that your children are the safest with you to act the you know what out, you know, and you're just like, oh, I am the safest place in the world for them to be, to just show their ass.
My therapist told me.
Yeah. And when you realize that honor, it's like, oh, okay, so then how can I just be fortified, you know, in order to take those moments, right? When I realized, then I feel like the father or the second parent is the first bridge to the outside world. And how needed that role is, because they kind of, you know, they rise up a little bit. They, you know, they act a little bit better for dad, you know, sometimes. And in the case of our home, right? And so there's a bridge to that emotional maturity that they can move through, and then you drop them off at somebody's house and they come back, your kid is amazing.
Yes.
They did this, they did that. And you're like, oh, so you do know how to act. And that just rhythm. And then sometimes, you know, when I would be upset about things, I did have someone there to tell me, Mara, you're fine. They love you. You're tripping a little bit. You're just relax a little bit. But that level of the dance between the parents and the child is actually beautiful when you finally settle down into it and get into the roles. They're just roles, and it's okay to lean into them. And then there's sometimes that, like, I get things that they don't get. I get not just the acting out. I get those intimate details. You know, I get those real, when they're really, really safe and they're telling you things. You're like, oh shoot, I'm trying to remember it so I can go back and tell.
Don't tell dad though. Don't tell dad.
And some things you don't.
Yeah.
For a while.
Right.
You know.
Well, see, my wife will say, well, I'm going to tell dad, but he's not going to judge. You're not getting into trouble, or, you know, some things. But I have the most difficult time with really being understanding, right? And the reason being is it's similar to what you just said. Like, my wife will yell at my kids every day, right? For something small. I yell once a week.
Yes.
And it's the worst thing ever. And I'm like, well, mom yells at you all the time. But mom doesn't yell like you. It's the same yell. But they feel like mom is that safe place. They can open up. They can be comfortable. But dad is the barrier to the outside world.
The barrier to the outside world, and to see that, and then on Keisha's side, being, you know, having a single mother, right, how much you need a village. So she's very resourced, and, you know, the Edwards were more resourced financially. They got nannies and housekeepers and stuff. She's got the village. She's got cousins. She's got her grandfather, her dad, and then that was purposeful. We revealed that the dad's been around. He's not physically there all the time, and he's not carrying his complete share, but he is present. You know
your
what I'm
friend
saying?
is an ass. I just want to
Yes.
say that your friend over there is an
I didn't
ass.
get to
He
that
is an
part of the
ass.
series
Your
yet,
friend is an ass.
I will just
Keep
say that everybody is represented in this show. Okay,
You get on my
Everybody
nerves.
represented. What's the most uncomfortable truth you had to face to write forever? Honestly,
Just, you know, you'd like to think that you're an amazing mother. Just were my shortcomings as a mother. I think when I acknowledge that, I think not only my children and then our community of children need more space, I had to look at where I was allowing that. I think that was uncomfortable. I think the other part was the depiction of getting into the nitty gritty around these, like the sex tapes, and then the betrayals that are happening with these children whose brains aren't fully functioned yet, and making bad choices. Wanted to make sure I protected Keisha by also allowing the truth to be told. You know what I'm saying? And the way it is experienced, and it can be the outcome. You know, even, and he made a horrible choice. I actually think Christian is not. I know he messed up royally, right? But I also think that there's room for him. But I know that people are like, no.
I was so, when he came back into this, I was like, why is he back and around and all these things, and she's dealing with so much stuff right now.
We don't make, and that's the other thing too. I've seen grown women not make great decisions. You know what I'm saying? And we just put all this pressure. She's 16. We're young, and we're trying to negotiate a lot. One of the things that I was trying to arc out with the Keisha character is, what would it be like to be invisible at a PWI for most of your life, not be reflected back that you are beautiful, and then the first time you get attention from the baller, you know what I'm saying? That how are we making those decisions? How are we making those choices to be seen, to be loved, to be cared for, in a time when, speaking about sexuality, especially that period and on, young women are saying, "Hey, I have sexual urges. I mean, girls need love too." They're the ones leading sometimes the blowjob conversation. They're like, "We can do." So you're in this world that some things are really okay to do, and just trying to negotiate all of these things. She made a bad choice. He made a bad choice. Everybody's trying to impress somebody, trying to do. These kids are managing a lot, and then the public record of it and the forever record of it is very hard to live with. So I think that, Faith, your question was, what are some of the hardest things? Trying to be honest about the times and honest about why people are making the choices that they are making. Even when you are, I know there's not a lot of compassion for the Christian character, and I'm aware of that. And that was a very tough choice to make, trying to make it as honest and grounded as possible, so that it can be the thing in the middle of this love story that they actually move through. What's great to me about the Justin and Keisha is that they both come from love. They know it.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a little complicated. It may not be ideal in times, but they know they're loved. And what's beautiful is to watch two young people choose love from having been loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's beautiful for us as a community, especially family, especially as parents, is our ability to witness our children's choices while they're still in our home.
Yeah.
What's also happening in society, they're calling it late bloomer. I think that's the new term. I mean, young people are not even getting to feel desired until they're like damn near 30.
Yeah.
They're not even know like that reciprocal, like he like me, I like her. Or,
Well, they got to go outside. You got to get off of social media for that, I think.
There's that too, and then that's the other layer we're putting on it. We go outside, but some of our kids, and some, that's I wanted to talk about putting our kids in private white institutions. They go through there's an upside, right? You're trying to give them the best education, set them up for the best future, but the consequence a lot to that is they're not being seen.
Yeah.
That social. They don't feel beautiful. They don't feel handsome. They don't feel important. There's nothing marrying them back oftentimes.
And that's what I feel like
And
everybody. I'm sorry.
So when you say they have to get outside, they are outside.
Doesn't matter.
Keisha goes to that party in the stairs, and Justin tells her that she's beautiful
Yes.
or gorgeous, and she stops. And I'm like, but to your point of what you just said, they're like the only black kids.
Yes.
So for her to hear that from him, it probably was a whole different type
Yes.
of you're gorgeous or you're beautiful, whatever he had said to her. But I didn't even think about that point of it. I just thought it was just her first time interacting with a boy she liked.
Yeah. There's not enough to sort of like, and it may be that maybe other kids like them, but maybe they're conditioned not to for race reasons or things of that nature. But I don't know that our kids sometimes, they're outside, but they're not always connected. That's why we've spent a lot of time and money trying to get to the vineyard. But that's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's 2 weeks.
But it's funny that you said it. That's, my daughter had the same problem, and I wanted her to go to a HBCU because of that. I went to Hampton, and she didn't. She went to great schools, a lot of white kids, but nobody ever approached her.
Yes.
So she didn't feel beautiful. She didn't feel a way. And then when
You should be happy that nobody there approached her.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but
Don would be very proud.
Nah, but the problem is she never felt that love.
Exactly.
So she
So then
was
you're like,
a little depressed. She felt like she wasn't as beautiful as she is. And then when she went to NYU, there's no campus, so she felt even worse. And then COVID hit. So now, if you know Manhattan is your campus.
Yes.
So there is no campus. So you're going to venues and clubs with everybody, and that made me nervous because now she's not well equipped.
Yeah.
Yes.
And thank God she found somebody that did find it. But at first,
a black man too.
yeah. Yes. But at first, she was.
No, you have to say that because y'all kids are going to very nice schools, so it might not always be a black
Yeah,
man.
but it was very difficult. But I felt guilty about that for years because I was like, am I setting them up for failure? Am I setting them up for somebody not to love them? Because I went to a black school. I lived in a black neighborhood. So I'm seeing love all day long. And she didn't have that feeling. She didn't have those friends, which is probably why she's so close to me now. And I'm kind of like her best friend. Like we go out and we do things. Like right now, she just texted me, Dad, what time are you coming home? And she's 23 years old. But it's just that relationship. But it gave me a guilt as a parent.
It's funny when you ask me what I have to face. That's that. That's that. There's I know we make choices for a certain reason, but you're thinking, ooh, what my kids are fine, but also that's what you move through when you're just trying to give them the world.
The
You're
best
trying to give
education,
the best you can give them, and you realize, oops, I missed that part. So they are getting outside, and in LA specifically, these kids don't want to drive. Like I was at the DMV like at 9 a.m. on my birthday.
Yep.
They are not. So I mean that's what it's. So how are they even seeing each other? And that goes back to where are the spaces? I was at the skating rink. I was at this. I was at the mall. I was here. That's not happening that much anymore. And so I that concerns me as well. So I'm hoping that some of these images on the show makes people want to connect, get outside, be back outside. I think we need that.
I mean, but the beauty of it is.
Let me get a damn question. Everybody, Mr. Kill, how the whole town knew about the sex tape, but Keisha's mother?
Well, now it's funny. That's why we were in LA. That's why I did above the 10 and below the 10. Certain communities can know it and hold it and let you know it when they feel like it. but below the 10, she was able to keep that. She was able to keep that going, and that shows the disconnect of the village. There was no parent from those communities that thought to call Shelly. That is all, that's the other thing I did make a commentary on, that being a Black parent sometimes in these schools, you're a parent, but are you really a part of the community sometimes? And now, I'm not saying it's 100% like that, but sometimes that's where things do part, when there is judgment or maybe not, maybe that's the wrong word. When there's not real community, when there's not real connection,
right.
when there's not real care, that you're just seen as a part of this, you're like a sprinkle on top to our communities. And I say that in a generality. I think there's certainly some families who are figuring that out, but so it's not, please don't come for me that we can't figure that out. But what I've also noticed in these communities is in these worlds, because Shelly's from a different economic bracket, she doesn't live anywhere close to where these communities are. She's further away from the information. And it took Dawn to find out, to bring it back to her.
Black love has been so commodified lately, right? Like I feel like, you see people doing the matching outfits on the gram, or, they have Black love weddings, but what makes forever feel real and not curated?
I would ask you, what did you feel?
That I actually saw myself. I saw me and my wife, I saw my teenage daughter and her friends. I saw how, it's little simple things like the conversations they was having at the cookout, like arguing about, Kanye. Or they smoking the weed, and then the kids come and they try to put it out, but they dancing to their own music. I just felt like that's just real aesthetics. That's what real Black love and Black relationships look like. And even things like, not arguing or trying not to argue in front of the kids, or even if you and your significant other disagree, not showing that in front of the child. There was times where Wood would be like, yo.
Yeah.
And then she would know, and then he would say what he said, or vice versa. And I just thought that was powerful.
Yeah, thank you. It's just me paying attention to my own life, the life around me, just paying attention to us. I think that's my job as a storyteller. Nina Simone says, I'm here to reflect the times. It's for me to look at us, look at each other, and find all those. I know about your guilt because I have my own. You know what I'm saying? I know about these things. I know about how be loved by a Black man who can be very strong in his opinions, but it's not intimidating. It's not, he might feel intimidating to the world, but he's not intimidating to me.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I know there's love there. And he knows I'm strong Black, a strong Black woman. She's got an opinion. I'm going to say something. I can say it without losing my softness.
I want your kids to bring home a Black significant other.
Not
because of racism, but because you want somebody that understands. You want somebody that's going to understand you and what you go
and
through.
Protect you.
And protect you.
And to protect you. That's what I think at the core of parenting, we want to love our kids, and we want our kids loved, and we want them protected. We want them safe in the world. And so, our history will tell us that it just seems like the odds are better that way.
Keisha's story. Well, first to bring home the Black significant other, when Dawn, she's upset. And Justin doesn't have his phone or whatever. But then at one point, she's open to him getting back into the world and having a phone or whatever, because Wood Harris is like, he met a girl, like, ease up on him a little bit. When they had that conversation, when she finally sits down with him and she's trying to get in his business about who he's dating and who the person is, as a mom, yourself personally, what did you put into that conversation that you do with your own kids when you're trying to enter into their world and make sure that even though they're at the white schools and all these things, the Blackness is still there without being like, you got to be Black? Because she was very soft, but she was also, it was obvious she wanted him to be with a Black girl.
We just talk real. We've always just been honest with our kids from the jump, from their level of understanding. You know what I'm saying? Using their language for their entry into the conversation. Being very honest why. Why I want you to be with a Black woman. Even though that could be challenging, even though it's like you can date whoever you want to date. This is going to be your life, but I'm going to tell you why. And why I think it's beautiful. I just give my opinion, but make room for theirs. I think that's what's important, is for me to make room for theirs. So I use that. I use You know, it's funny because even the music, I think one of the things, music is a big part of the show. And it's funny, in my car, I let them have the aux.
Why? Do you want to stay hip or?
I just want to know. I just want to witness them. I
Gotcha.
want to know what they're thinking about. So every like fourth, you know how like if you get like a Spotify account and you do like the bass, you got to get a commercial like every 4 songs. So in my car, you get a lecture every 4 songs. And we used to debate about, okay, if I don't let you eat McDonald's all the time because of XYZ, I need you to understand what these lyrics are doing, what you're eating. And so he's like, Mom, it's just a beat. It's just a beat. Well, no, it's more than a beat. So we would talk about that. They push back because we talked about misogyny and things like that. He was like, well, the women, some of the female rappers they got. I said, yeah, misogyny is not particular to one group of people. Misogyny is misogyny. It's just like, you know, racism is racism. So you get to talk to your kids and find out who they are and give them your point of view while the world gives them their point of view. And so I think if you remain a trusted place, they are going to hear your voice. God willing, they will hear it before they get themselves in any kind of danger or, you know, that kind of thing. But I feel like just giving them my opinion.
What emotional space?
And then showing my life. You know what I'm saying? Living my life, you know? Like even like your career paths or your future path. Teaching them how I recognize that I'm a writer. I reminded, how did I know that I was a writer? How did I know what my path was? Teaching them those things, what it's going to feel like in your body, what it's going to look like, how you're going to act, you know, when it's going to take discipline, where's the sacrifice in these ideas? You know, what, even like, you know, yes, mom and dad, we made a lot of money, but understand we're built on a legacy. Let's go back to grandma and granddad and great-grandparents. And let me tell you where you came from. This is, you know, us owning more than one home is not new to this family. It happened over here. Understand that. Understand. So you got to give them history, opinion, knowledge, show it, be it. You know, even when we talk about dreams, I talk about my dreams. I still got dreams. And so, and dreams take resources. So are you going to hit that basketball train or not? Because I could use that money.
I want you to stay there for a second. Like, how was your own evolution spiritually, emotionally, as a mother? How did that influence the writing of Forever?
Oh, completely. So my writing styles, I tend to muse off of. I find music. I tell the truth through fiction. I'm a journalism major. I went to Northwestern. Shout out to Northwestern. I'm always going to shout out. I love Northwestern. One of the best choices I've ever made. I went to Medill. So a lot of my approach to a story, I start to lock in on. There'll be a muse, and then I open up to see what is happening in the zeitgeist. What is happening. At strong sociology classes, like where are we at as a people? That's how I was trying to figure out where the teenagers were, where we're at today. So my children were my muse because that's what I was concerned about. So I came into this project just as a concerned mother. My guilt, am I doing this right? Am I giving enough space? Did we pick the right schools for them? Did we set up our life in a way that's really going to support them? As you start to think about the more complexity parts of their life, and life was changing fast because of technology as well, right? So that's where I was at the same time that the Judy Blume opportunity came. And that's where my big bang happens.
Wow.
And that's how I put those. So I'm musing off of my own parenting style. I mean, I started therapy because of parenting. I realized people, oh, you're an amazing mom. But I was like, I need to feel like a better mom. So let me start unpacking some of the things, all these sort of, all the things that therapists take you through. And so I started doing that and realizing how I was parenting from a catastrophic place of fear, not just because of the times, but just all the things. And you realize, okay, I need to let this go in order to be a better mother. And I think the best way I can do that is offer it in my work and mirror myself and allow, and I think that's the power of storytelling. When you share your story or a testimony in church, it actually hits the hearts and souls and spirits of so many other people. But that's why sharing of the story is so important. It's not just about you; it's about the collective us, right? And so, bringing all those things to bear and having this amazing opportunity with the book to place all of these things. Even in the translation of the book, I got to talk about what it's like to be Black parents. You know, Judy got to talk about what it's like to be white parents of that time. But let me tell you what it's like to be Black parents in America. It's probably not that different from, other generations, but these are the details of our time. And this is what it looks like. And this is why we love our kids just as much as you love your kids, but they don't have as much freedom sometimes. And here's why. Black boys are just as vulnerable and actually are just as, I'm nervous mostly about Black boys when it comes to sexuality, because before they can even say they love someone, they're considered enemy number one because of they're not little boys anymore. They are, their bodies just getting bigger, muscles on their body, having a penis. They're suddenly like a threat. You have to talk about rape. You got to talk about that with Black boys, just your presence sometimes. It may not be what you and the young woman consented to, but you are still in the time if their parents say, we witnessed that in real time. These things are happening. So we could be real clear on consent. We got to be real clear on these sorts of things. Wanting to put that, not just for wanting to not only protect my own sons, but all of these beautiful Black boys that I get to, be in community with, that I love and I don't want to see hurt, and I don't want to see misunderstood and misjudged just by their physical presence. Nothing more than that. And because they don't like to smile, because, they want to keep it real. I want them to see beyond that. I want to see Black boy vulnerability. I want people to see them as their fuel, that they actually can cry. And Michael Cooper jokes, like, I gotta cry again. I was like, yeah, you gotta cry again. He's hurt. He's more sensitive. I said the character's sensitive. I said that. But yeah, because I just want to, Black boys cry. And they also bawl, and they also go for their dreams, and they want the girl, and they get the grades. You know what I'm saying? They struggle. They're frustrated. They're all of those things.
And then when they finally get what they want, it scares them for some reason, because he didn't mean none of that stuff he said. I don't want to give it away, but he ain't mean none of that stuff on that last episode. I don't think he really I know he didn't want to walk away.
Why?
I think he was just afraid of what he was afraid of losing it. So he feels like letting it go would be less painful than just losing it.
You know what I love about storytelling? Because it meets the viewer where they're at. You're going to see it that way, and someone's going to see that, wow, he understood that he did not have the capacity to let go of her and choose himself. So he needed to choose himself. He would have just stayed up underneath her. And a lot of people do that. A lot of young people do that because it feels good to be loved.
Comfortable, yeah.
It feels good for somebody to call you and want to see you and hug you and kiss you. And you can get lost in that, and you can lose time. I think he understood time is ticking. And that's a reality to being young and making that leap in especially in a capitalistic democracy. You got to go. He understood that, and she helped him understand that.
It felt to me like he didn't, he wasn't chasing her by the end of the series, though. He was literally just chasing an identity that he hadn't felt before, like that real Blackness, like the Blackness that his mom and his dad wanted him to have and not lose by growing up the way he grew up. By the end of the show, he felt like going to that prom with her and just being around her and her friends and hearing her say she wanted to go to Howard. It didn't feel like he was chasing her. He was chasing his Blackness to me.
I think all can be true. All can be true, but also imagine you get to Howard and all you know is Keisha. He might just be all up underneath Keisha.
Yeah.
And that, and really, I mean, I'm sure he played those scenarios out. I know he did, because we do as a writing team. But what I love about storytelling is that it meets the viewer where they are. And this is what's beautiful about the show, and all the different conversations that are coming up, all the different opinions that are coming up. This is us. This is the best dinner party you can ever have.
Absolutely.
And this is what we think, and everybody's got opinions, and what sticks to you is for you, and what sticks to you is for you. What irritates you is also for you. what irritates you is as a writer. This is some game I give. Is like a lot of times people are like, I don't like that. The I don't like that is just as important as the what you do like in writing, because I say what sticks to you is yours. That's your examination. That's for you to examine. It's called your attention. You can't shake it. You can't let it go, good or bad. Look into that. Investigate there. Dig there. I think that's why I keep getting hits after hits, is because I like digging deeper into to us, and I think who doesn't want to be seen? And I think a lot of our stories, either they're missing or they've been distorted, like you said, the negative, like they've been distorted. I think when you start to really see yourself, you might want to tighten up here, a little tighten up there, but for the most part, you're like, I'm cute. I'm cute. I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I can lose 5 pounds, whatever. But for the most part, I'm doing all right. I think that those ideas of ourselves or what we're stuck on, that may be for you to examine, you to look at. And I think that's why we need more storytellers out there.
I just got 3 more questions if you got time.
Yeah.
What emotional space does Forever occupy that none of your previous shows have?
What emotional space does it occupy? I think the cross-generational idea, for the most part, I've written adult conversation, though I've had parents come into those stories. They're not, they're like drive-bys in a lot of ways. I just think the complexity of family and the generational connection, and that I just really enjoyed that. I think also the scale, emotionally, it allowed me to really scale us, and I enjoyed that. And it the kids say take up space. It allowed me to take up space for us and for myself.
And what did Judy Blume teach you about softness, and how does that show up in your characters now?
Well, softness is details. I think, especially in the book Forever, most of the book is about Catherine's internal feelings, thoughts, and to use that much time on the internal space is really a privilege, a luxury. Oftentimes, most in our story time, we're more observed than we are explored. And I enjoyed being able to explore. And that's what Judy taught in her writing, all the books. She's an internal writer. And then she gave, as young people reading her books, you're validating these feelings inside that I don't necessarily show, because I don't want to be embarrassed, or I don't want to be judged, or I don't want to be misunderstood. So kids are keeping a lot to themselves, and she was being honest on the page. So I believe I've been doing that in my body of work, and I got to do it again to give young people a view of themselves today, like she gave us, 50 years ago.
My last question is Forever about love you've had, love you've lost, or love you still believe in?
All the above. I believe in love. I believe in love. One of the things I'm really proud of with the ending, I know there's controversy about the ending, but what I love that Justin and Keisha showed us is how love endures, and it shape shifts. It's dynamic, can change, but love can stay present. And they showed us how to let go and keep love in that ending. I think we could learn a lot from Justin and Keisha. The question, is this a forever love, or the one you remember forever? And I would like to think that we, as we move through our lives as human beings, that when we choose to use that word, right? I loved you, there's a present, that you were so present and so loving that even if you don't last, the couple doesn't last, the love can last. It might shift to, it might just shift to, we always just sort of text each other on each other's birthday, that you matter to me. One of the fun things you realize when you're revisiting the work, especially as young people, oftentimes that's where our big dreaming happens. And those young loves, that a lot of times the best part of you is packed in somebody else's memory of you. And so to have access back to those people actually is good for you, to remember who you are when you lose your way. And because you're going to lose your way. And so love holds you there. So it is about the past, the present, and the future. And I think that love can take many different forms. I have my young one plays baseball, and I've learned a lot about watching him sit in the stands play baseball.
Long days, long games.
Long games. But what's beautiful about it is everybody who walks into that batter's box has a different fight. And so I often think about relationship, right? Did you swing the bat? Did you have they call it, did you have a good at bat? And sometimes your at bat, you strike out, but you still had a good at bat. And I think that's what I think love is about. Are we having a good at bat? Are we swinging? Are we using our technique? Are we using all the knowledge we spent all week learning for this 1 to 2 times we get to walk in that batter's box? And are we using it? Did we, whatever the shoulders and the hips and all that kind of stuff, do we?
Eyes on the ball.
Eyes on the ball.
Up,
all those
right
things. All those things you got to do with this ball coming at you 80, 90 miles an hour. That's love. And I think that I would like to think that we can all approach it at a good at bat.
Wow.
I have one final question. Regina King and her directing.
Yes. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, because, okay, so I was trying to look to see, like, what the conversation around it was online. But I remember when I found out that she was doing it, my first thought was, I wonder what their conversations were like what changes she made and what she brought to the screen. Because I heard you say a lot of it was about your life as a parent as well, too. But
no, you move. Let me be very clear. I have a muse entry point. And then once I go into that entry point, then I become a journalist almost and look at the world around. And then that's how I sort of craft my stories. That said, what's beautiful about the art form is that the art form is a collaborative art form. I had to sit in that chair. Judy had to sit in that chair to write that book. I go look at the book. I had to sit in that chair and adapt that book. But one of the first phone calls you make after you have a script, you call your casting director, Kim Coleman. And then the second immediate is who is going to direct. And I called Regina King and said, I think it's time for us to collaborate again. Regina and I first worked together when early in her directing career. She directed episodes of Being Mary Jane. And she went off to have a really wonderful directing career. And it was like, okay, I need you to help. Let's help me reset the tone. We both are mothers. We both love our sons. I needed Regina King. I need that chemistry. Her iconic performances as an actress, I would love them rooted in these characters, especially helping us launch this love story within these 2 young actors, anchoring them in their chemistry and everybody knowing where they are in this play, in this world. Then, of course, we built out the team and the decisions that we make together, finding Cambio, who is our DP, Suzuki, our production designer. We collaborate on the ideas of our costume, Minka and Tanja. These are the principal storytellers that we need to help tell our story, just helping to make those decisions together. It was really lovely to help set the tone for it so that we can take off and run. I mean, Anthony Hemingway coming in, Timby Banks, all of these major decisions, our editors, Carolina and Naomi, and just Gary Gunn, our composer, Keir Lehman. We put it's almost like, speaking of baseball references, it's almost like you have your baseball cards out. You're like, we should bring this for this. I got this for this. And you kind of put it together, and it's fun to puzzle together. It's fun to sort of collaborate on that level. So she and my company, Story 27, hers, Royal Ties, we've come together to help set a bar of excellence that we want the show to live in and thrive from.
And you know where season 2 is going?
I do. I have ideas. I still have to go through the process. Part of what I think another thing that makes me successful is how I honor my partnerships. And I come into it respectfully and really to also garner that energy back to me. But I have a concept of what I need to do. I won't share it until my partners are signed off on it. But my next steps are me coming into a meeting ready to talk to Netflix around, hey, this is where I see it. And this is where I think it should go, hearing their feedback, their concerns, taking that in consideration, sometimes debating it for a while, but finding a way to communicate why I think it's the way it should go. And if not, where's the compromise in that? And feeling good about the artistic flexibility that I have to craft story, to figure that out. So I'm looking forward to that, and success especially. Sometimes success can make people tighten up too.
That's right. Stop playing with Mara, okay?
Yeah.
Mara's had hit after hit in multiple decades.
That's right.
Okay, streaming services, the linear television, give her what she wants.
That's right.
Including the $50 million for girlfriends.
We
need closure.
We need closure.
Okay? It's that simple.
It's that simple.
Yes.
Real. We've been talking about this. It's real. It's really that simple. And I'm excited. I think it's gonna come. I don't know. I feel it. Like, I don't know. Last time I was here, we talked about it. And I think what was beautiful in my journey at that time was for me to claim the value and understand the boundaries and understand what it is. I don't know. I think, and also this success breeds more success. So I kind of feel, like feeling.
Time.
I think it's time.
And the success Girlfriends has had on Netflix.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, they should see it.
Generational success.
I
So
know,
people watch
yes.
it. I watched that. I rewatched the whole thing with my mom, and I was like, "This is so different." But
I'm finding out people are putting Girlfriends on for their go to sleep. They call it their comfort TV show that they put on, and they just let it run. And some people let it run while they go to sleep. Blows my mind. Secondarily, my youngest son, I noticed that he will tell me, like, his friends are watching it and they think your mom is cool because she does Girlfriends.
Right.
So I still got the
dope.
street cred,
There you
y'all. I
go.
still got
Mine
it.
is the game. I'm up and down the game
Up and down.
all day.
Up and down. Well,
Up and
thank
down
you.
the game.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome,
And this, I don't know if people know, but 9/11 of this year marks 25 years of Girlfriends. 25 years of Girlfriends.
This year.
This year.
So we need to make that announcement, right?
Yes.
It's time.
That's
that,
right.
that would be the announcement to make,
It
right?
would
Why
only
not?
make sense. The first episode was 9/11/2000.
Gosh, and
I
all the
remember
women
that.
still look so good.
Don't they look
including
amazing?
Yourself. All of them still look so
I saw
good.
Tracy recently. We went to go see The Wiz went back on the screen. Did anybody see it? On the screen? Oh, you guys. I've seen The Wiz over and over, but The Wiz on big screen, I haven't seen that since I was a young girl. And Tracy and I went together to go see it, and we had a ball. And it was also really fun to watch her mom.
Wow.
It was kind of like, oh, this is like very meta, right?
Wow.
And so that was amazing. And then
Jill and Golden was at your birthday
yeah,
party.
Jill and Golden at my birthday party. So to your point, they look smashing.
And do.
Salute to
look
Persia too. It has to happen. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
Yes.
Because it's like the one black sitcom that we really did not get any closure on whatsoever. And there's so many loose ends to tie up.
And it's not just loose ends. It's actually very relevant. I think it's a very karmic idea to have the show have a ending in a film. I just want to do a movie. Because of where we as a society have grown around the importance of relationships, and Tony and Joan breaking up, I think, has been the hardest thing on the audience, even over
Yes.
Joan not getting her man. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's an interesting thing to put back in the chat. So it's still relevant to this day. It's like, how does friendship come back together or not come back together, right? Can you still find that love of your life when you choose, you know what, I'm doing all right by myself. There's nothing wrong with me for not having had a husband. But that was a different conversation back at the time we were producing that show to where we have progressed today, 25 years later. There's a different value in society around relationships and friendship, and how important friendship is, and the sustaining of it, the care of it, the beauty of it, the complexity of it. And I'm like, okay, look at us grow. And then also this idea that you're not broken because you're not in partnership romantically. It's not to say that you don't want that, but understanding that there's a different entry point into that it's not just being married to be married. You want to be really partnered with your soulmate or your those, was it twin flame, which one it is, whatever one it is, whichever one's the hot one, that one.
Go ahead.
I was
Lauren.
gonna say, so Joan is you can't say her anything, but Joan is actually, she does still want to be married and be with a person, or is she just gonna do it by
I'm
herself?
just talking about where we left her.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna give it's funny
Because I'm like, it sounds like she's about to do it all by herself still.
I'm just talking about where we are in society. So
Yeah.
again,
'Cause she would be
I've
accepted
shared with
today.
you guys very openly that my writing process is like, well, who am I musing on? And then you open up to see where society is, the journalist in me, and that's where we are. And that's all I'm sort of commenting on, and that where we left the show, 25 years where society is, I feel the relevance of Girlfriends is almost matched to where our ending was.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, and even like, and we talked about their physical beauty, even that, you know what I'm saying? Even how, that's important, and also how do we get there? What are we doing? Even my generation of women, which is also the generation of those women on Girlfriends, we've pioneered a whole new conversation around, we're openly going to talk about perimenopause and menopause. We're not going down like the previous generations, being okey-doked by the lies over there. So it's like there's so much to talk about, I think, in a new iteration of the ending that we're still holding on to from 25 years ago. So it's an interesting thing to hold on to. In terms of like the details of what I would do, I'm not going to share that because that's my currency.
I know.
My ideas are my currency. My craftsmanship is how I make it. Everybody got a dress, but it's how I make the dress.
That's right.
And so I'm excited for that opportunity. I don't know, energetically, I just feel it differently this time
50
around.
million.
And maybe because I'm on your show now, see? It's like even that is a beautiful omen, right? Because we talked about it last time I was there, and now I'm back, and we're talking about it again, and yeah, so why not?
I mean, there's nothing guaranteed, but Girlfriends is a guaranteed hit. I don't care what nobody says.
I know. Global guarantee.
Easily. I want to show you this. I posted this last week. Now that we're grown, which friend was the most toxic?
Everybody can say Joan.
Why did you even lead with toxic?
Because we're grown now, so we have a different perception of all of them.
Who do you think, Charlamagne?
Todd.
Yeah.
Todd had no
Crazy.
business, marrying Tony. Tony had no business marrying Todd. But honestly, people always leave Lynn out. Lynn would be considered very toxic nowadays because she didn't have no boundaries. She didn't respect nobody's boundaries.
I think she was the most at one with herself to a certain extent.
Mine was the only one that
needed
was unproblematic to me. But Lynn didn't respect anybody's boundaries. I have interesting theories about Joan and Tony. But
let me ask you a
take another
question.
hour.
Why did you use the word toxic?
Oh, I reposted to me. That was just a conversation starter.
I know, but why did you repost that conversation starter?
'Cause I think that they had traits that could be considered toxic.
You know what I want to say about that?
Mm-hmm.
What I love about the vulnerability and the complexity of the characters, that later they can be analyzed.
Yes.
And give some language about what they were brave enough to be. And what I look at between the generations is like when there's this generation's, we have more language to label things, right? to label it. I feel like those characters, and so the word toxic, I just sort of underscore, highlight, and circle, because that can be this blanket over them that doesn't deserve to be there. And that's what I'm saying, is that we are complex. Now, I'm not saying that the complexity means you need to be friends with them for a lifetime. You may only complex for a while. I mean, I'm not saying you can't grow from them. I can't say you might, like I said, you might not have a good at bat and strike out. But I don't know. I think it's important to examine, but not hold the label.
True. Absolutely.
And because one of the things that Lynn represents to me, and what she, I think, represented to the generation that was actually beautiful, is that at the time that I was writing that series, all Black women were presented that they knew exactly who they are, what they needed to be in order to be accepted. Lynn represented she didn't know, but she was still loved.
Trying to figure it out.
Even in her sexual, like that was probably like the first time I ever saw a black woman on camera that she was queer, but like we didn't know really what that was.
We didn't label it.
I didn't know until I got
just
this
Lynn.
age that I just thought Lynn was just like the girl who just did whatever she wanted to do. And everybody has that friend.
Yes.
And those friends, they have to be strong in themselves to a certain extent because you're so different than everybody else.
And if you think about Lynn and you put it in this New Jersey, she was break the no boundaries. She was actually, instead of it being toxic, she was actually being progressive. And most people would align queerness to progressive thought, right? She was challenging notions. Why one could say the way she lived her life was communal living, which is now a conversation for the future. I'm just saying how we look at things and being careful not to, I think it's beautiful to analyze because that's how we progress. But be careful not to then blanket everything with labels. Let's go back to forever. In 2018, we were saying ADHD. 2025, we're saying neurodivergent.
That's right.
Language keeps changing as we understand ourselves. And I think that's an interesting thing about the power of language. And one of the things I want us to be mindful of, especially in our community, is how quick we are to say, oh, he's toxic, she's toxic, 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 toxic. I would love to say, okay, maybe that aspect of that person needs some development, needs some growth. Dawn, DJ Envy, Mara, Dawn, we are in this, okay, our guilt, fear, maybe as parents, we need to release that, understand what it is and let it go. But just be careful not to keep blanketing us. And our desire to grow and our desire to purge, and get whole. So that's what I would say. I think what I love about the collection of those women, those characters, is as complicated or toxic as they were, even in that, we deserve love. And they were trying to figure it out. And there are different ways to stay together in their friendship and in their respective relationships, and that how do we move forward together in the complexity of us?
Because Carrie and Symantha fell out, and nobody called them toxic when they fell out.
Yes, they did.
No,
What?
people
Carrie
love.
is so toxic.
You the first person I've ever heard say that.
What?
People feel like Carrie was wronged by Symantha, and Samantha's just this free friend who eventually they still want to see them get back together as friends. People want Jill to never speak to Joan again.
No,
and
that's
vice
not
versa.
true.
Yeah, people feel like they were
No.
bad friends to each other.
Maybe, but that's not true. We definitely want them to get back together. That's part of the closure. We want to see if Jill and Joan become friends again.
Mara, these
Tony
girlfriends-
and Joan, I'm
these
sorry.
girlfriends argue all
Sorry,
day long.
yeah,
about
I
this.
think
Tony and
These
Joan.
girlfriends argue all day long.
We could do this all day
Tony
long.
and
Yes,
Joan.
100%.
But do you guys, no, but I'm asking you guys, do you really, I know you do, Charlamagne, you are very clear about wanting to see a movie.
You already
16
know.
years he's been clear.
You don't have that.
I've been working with him for
Very clear,
16
and I
years.
appreciate you. I want to also say, I'm always going to take a moment to say thank you, because you also, that means a lot to me as a storyteller, like, wow, that level of impact on you. And even the fact that me and Judy Blume were in the same thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
16
But
years.
now, you three, are you going to go spend some money at the theater to go see a
I will
girlfriend?
walk
Yeah.
to the theater.
I'm trying to be in the damn movie.
Okay.
Like, yes.
Yes,
Hell,
okay.
yes, I'm
We waiting on this for a
I'm just
long
doing a check.
time.
Yes.
I agree.
My wife is taking me there so fast. It's
It's
beyond
not
it would
even
be
a
unbelievable.
game.
It would be an
Yes.
event.
I don't think you
There's
ever
not
have
too
to
many
ask that.
events anymore. It would be an event.
I think
Yes.
so too. I
Yes.
think people would dress up. I think people go out
Charlamagne,
to dinner.
Charlamagne have on his nice dress. She
This
gonna have on her
whole
nice
thing.
dress, her nice wig. They are what? It's gonna be something.
Shoot.
You asked on Sherry Shepherd for her to open her phone. She knows somebody with $50 million. Ask these two.
Yeah, who you got in your phone?
Or
Let's
right.
call somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mara,
reach
no,
out.
I've been trying to shake trees for a long I've been trying to shake
Let's
trees.
call somebody. Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you for
Forever
having me.
is on Netflix now. We
Yes.
appreciate it. It's a long conversation. We appreciate you.
I loved it. I loved it. I
Absolutely.
love what you said.
Thank you.
You've always been so intentional, and you're right. Girlfriends gave us a lot of vocabulary.
Yeah.
So what?
It gave us
Never
a
mind.
lot.
I had another question, but
It
I
gave
know
us
you're
a
right.
lot to it gave us a lot to have a conversation about, and I think that's really where everything is at: is communication, have conversation, share ideas. We're not always going to agree, but I think we'll get to know each other.
Well, what do you want Forever to give people permission to do? And that's my last question. I promise.
What do I want forever? Love. I want people to think more about love in every aspect of their life. And actually, even if we're older, that it's okay to want that first love kind of feeling. Like, what do we need to do to get back to that first love kind of feeling? I don't know. I just think as a spirit having a human experience, dancing with love all the time has got to be our top endeavor. So that's what I want.
Mara Brock Akil, the icon, the legend. We appreciate you so much. We love you. We value you. Appreciate you and all your work. Thank you.
right.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. Thank you, Breakfast Club.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.